Hi everyone. I feel like I need a box to stand on. I'm not that tall really, so I might move around a bit so you can actually see me. So there's been a lot of talk today about enhancing your employee journey, enhancing your candidate experience, and talking quite a lot about employer brand. One of the key areas that we need to look at as a university was around our senior hires strategy. And that's because that was an area of quite high focus for our Vice-Chancellor, who is essentially our Chief Operating Officer. He wanted to reposition the university, got quite an ambitious strategy, and wanted to recruit what he called top quartile talent to the organisation. So we really needed to look at how we did things and how we changed things from a recruitment perspective. So I'm going to talk a little bit today about the background, a little bit about where we were, what we did to enhance our senior hires strategy, the results of that, and some takeaways. So hopefully some practical hints and tips that you can take away with you today, because we didn't have a huge budget. We're a university, we aren't Google, so we've had to do quite a lot ourselves and sort of make do with what we've got, really, to a certain extent. So our own Universities Employers Association talks about universities appearing as places of study and not places of employment. And rightly so in some ways, because our ultimate customers are our students. If you're paying £9,000 to get an education, you are now a customer. Whisper that very quietly to academics. They don't like to think of students as customers, but they are customers. So a lot of our marketing, a lot of our positioning, our websites, our collateral is very student-focused. So when you're trying to recruit everything from baristas to world-class professors to directors of IT to directors of estates, you've got quite a journey to go on when everything that faces outwards is very, very customer-oriented and doesn't really speak to your employment brand. So in terms of the beginning, I've been at the university for 18 months, and we were making a lot of mistakes from a hiring perspective. We were advertising all our positions on academic job boards, and I mean all our positions. So that was everything from baristas, domestic assistants, gardeners, all the way up to professors. And who knew that baristas don't hang around on academic job boards, they hang around in coffee shops, but that's a comment for another day. In terms of our senior hires, when we did advertise directly, we were receiving on average about 3 professorial applications, which isn't very many, and our quality of candidates for our professional services roles, such as IT, estates, wasn't great. There's a perception of university as an employer, and I know this because I kind of had that perception when I joined as well. You know, it seems like public sector, it seems very slow-paced, it seems a bit grey, it seems a bit formal. So if I had that perception, then I was well aware that other people had that perception too. And I think in terms of where the university had been and how things had been positioned, there was quite an assumption that you couldn't do senior hires in-house, that you had to use search and selection. Almost a kind of lack of confidence in our story and lack of confidence in ourselves as an employer. So we had to challenge that perception. In terms of what had been done in terms of recruitment marketing materials, it was PDF candidate packs. It was okay. It was a bit stale. It wasn't mobile compatible. It wasn't accessible to everybody. So we needed to move away from that. As a resourcing function, I built the resourcing function more or less from scratch at the university, and one of the key things we looked at as a team, because we'd all come from commercial backgrounds, was that we needed to look at our cost per hire and we needed to make some savings. We also knew that candidate experience was a problem as well. Where we had tried to recruit directly, we were losing candidates. Our website was clunky, the journey wasn't great, the front-facing piece of recruitment marketing wasn't showcasing us in the best way. And campaigns had fallen very flat. So when I joined, one of our faculty pro-vice-chancellors, which is essentially the MD of a faculty, if you like, said, my campaigns don't work. I'm struggling to recruit professors at a certain level. I need you to do something to wow me. And we knew that if he was going to be our case study, it had to be something pretty special to actually then use across the rest of the university. But what was it about MMU that was unique? We really needed to understand our audiences. we're like a village in terms of talent. We're everything, we're not just one vertical of, say, IT and then the wraparound support services. We are literally everything, from the people that look after students to the people that run the library to the people who do catering. It's what I call a talent village. So we had to understand what our audiences needed from us. So what we did was we went out there and we got feedback from external organisations, the agencies that worked with us, we got feedback from successful candidates, we got feedback from not successful candidates, and we got feedback from our current employees to find out what people needed to know about us in order to make a decision about coming to work at MMU. And what was key for us was playing to our strengths. We're a university in Manchester. We're not Google. We don't have artificial grass. We're definitely not going to have a slide anytime soon. So it's, we needed to play what was in our strengths. So that was great campus, great buildings, great central location, and most importantly for us, really great colleagues. We needed to create some energy. We needed to give international candidates what they needed to see about Manchester. What's good about coming to work at Manchester as coming to work at the University of Berlin, as coming to work at a university in Paris? What do international candidates need to see from us? And the reason that's important is because a lot of our recruits for senior roles were coming from the UK. And we knew as an organisation, as a university, if we were going to be much more research-driven, we needed to reach further afield. And what we did at first was we took the information that we got and we looked at our free channels first. So easy things like owning our Indeed page, putting some information on there, actually getting out a bit more of the messaging about Manchester Met. So our first campaign that we were asked as an internal team to work on was a very high-profile role. It was to head up a new research centre. There was a lot of backing around this in terms of research grants, but we knew we couldn't do it ourselves. So we worked with Peters Fox just to engage them to help us to create some of the collateral and to create the creatives, because we knew as an in-house team that was an area that we were falling down on. This really had to work for us, though, because previously every role had gone out to search and selection, so we really needed to have some serious return on investment from this one campaign. But it had to be cost-effective. It couldn't be as expensive as search and selection. It had to be mobile-enabled. That was one of our key things. Our current ATS wasn't mobile-enabled, so candidates weren't able to apply easily. So the challenge we set was you had to be able to apply in 4 clicks on mobile, and that's the challenge that we set in terms of what we were pulling together. And it had to be able to be read by text readers. Diversity and inclusion is a really big piece for universities. Candidate PDF packs can't be read by screen readers. This solution that we came up with can be. And we also wanted to monitor our pipeline of candidates. Previously, coming from search and selection, we didn't have a lot of control over who was coming to us. We were getting selections of candidates that were looking very, very similar. And we wanted to do something that hadn't been done in higher education before. Just because we were a higher education institution doesn't mean that we had to do something that was quite stale. We wanted to do something different. And what we actually came up with was something that hadn't been done in the UK before, not just something that hadn't been done in HE. So we knew that beyond putting an advert on a job board, beyond doing something quite straightforward, it had to be something quite interesting. So we thought, what can we do that showcases us as an employer, that's easy to apply to, that works on mobile, that works on your desktop, and showcases Manchester? And what we actually came up with was an e-magazine solution. So this is where the tech falls down and I have to do a song and dance because it doesn't work. What I'm going to walk you through now is a little bit of cool drone footage. Now, we got quite excited about this as a team. And if you actually seek out our e-magazine solutions, there's a whole piece of drone footage and Manchester looks absolutely beautiful. And that was really key for us in terms of that international audience, showcasing Manchester as an aspirational career destination. But also, the information in here, the level of information, is strong for candidates, and it's quite an easy journey. Ben from my team's over there, and we did these before Ben joined, and he was like, wow, the level of information. So hopefully you'll like it too. This works. This is one of our campus buildings, which is pretty cool. Spot the drone. So this lists the job roles, job information, why you should come and work at Manchester, the vision of the VC, facts and figures about us, things that you might not know. Who knew we had 4,500 employees? I didn't when I joined. Some introduction from our Pro-Vice Chancellor, and just all the information that you would need as a candidate to enable you to make a decision about whether you'd like to join Manchester Met. And incorporating live chat as well, as that's one of the areas that we wanted to explore in terms of being more readily available to our candidates. So the outcomes, we won an award. I got to put my posh frock on, doesn't happen very often. But that wasn't one of the reasons why we did it. The reasons why we did it was because we knew we needed to do something different to attract senior talent. But it meant that myself and Kat could go out and put our posh frocks on. And that's Anton Dubek. Who doesn't like Anton Dubek, you know? Everyone wants to meet Anton Dubek. But the real outcome is this, which is our cost per hire. We moved from it costing, on average, £30,000 per hire for senior hires going through search and selection to near enough £2,000 for every hire, which in a university setting where you don't have massive budgets and where you do have your budget, you should be spending it on students and spending it on your infrastructure. That was a massive win for us. In terms of outcomes, as a result of this first project, we've been given a license to go out and create better and targeted communications and targeted content. We've taken the majority of our senior hires in-house, whereas before we were sending them all to agency. We've created huge cost savings. We've gained more insight and intelligence into our organisation, and that's not just been valuable in terms of our front-facing employer brand. That's been very valuable from an employer engagement perspective, because whilst we've done that research piece, not only have we found out what attracts people to Manchester Met and what keeps people working there, we've also looked at our blind spots as well and the areas where we should focus from an employee engagement perspective. We've created more targeted communications. Gone are the days where we put every role on that academic job board. We're now looking at what does a domestic assistant need to see, and what they might need to see in our organisation is flexible working. I can go and pick my children up at 3:30. I can join an MVQ, I can do an apprenticeship. Whereas a world-leading professor needs to know that they can bring their research team with them, they've got world-class facilities, and that Manchester Met is going to enhance their reputation. And we've used our people to tell our story, because we're a people-driven business. It's all about people, it's all about knowledge. So we've not kind of gone down the route of, you know, here's an aspirational journey that we can't stick to. We've actually got our people to tell our actual story of working at Manchester Met. And where necessary, we've flexed our process. We've stepped away from our currently bad ATS and used more people in terms of dealing with our candidates than using an automated process. And we're going to build on that. Using more of our real people, using more of our real stories to create this aspirational journey of MMU. We don't use any stock footage anymore. It's all our real people, because our real people are lovely. So why are we not going to talk about our real people? Why are we going to use people in shiny suits sitting at a whiteboard thinking? We're using our real people out doing their day job. And we've showcased Manchester as an aspirational location. You know, this is a brilliant place to work. This is a brilliant place to attract talent to. So we've played to those strengths as well, and appealed a lot more to our international audience in terms of looking at a wider range of channels. And for the first time in ages, we're getting applications from Australia, we're getting applications from the US. We're not just getting a UK-based audience. And we've also started to use video, finding that we're getting a lot more interaction in terms of adding videos and video job descriptions rather than very static job ads. And that's not cost us a lot of money. That's literally an iPhone, and I think, is it a £4 tripod from Amazon? £6 tripod from Amazon, and that's been what we've been going out and taking video of our people. And we're getting a new ATS, so shout out to Al. We're getting a new ATS in the next few weeks, which will enhance the journey even further. But cool drone footage and nice kind of outward-facing marketing is probably not enough. So what we've emphasised is the human element, and we've called it candidate concierge. So that is always knowing the person who you're talking to in the process, and they will help you and walk you all the way through our recruitment process. You have your named contact. It's not just a faceless recruitment to MMU inbox. It's a named person. And we've got out there. It was a brand new concept, partnering with the business and understanding their areas, because there was this almost this apprehension in the business that how could HR people understand what a professor does? But we've gone out there and we've learnt about their areas, we've learnt about their challenges, we've learnt about their research and how we can partner with them. And we've acknowledged as a team that we don't have all the answers, you know, so where necessary, we've done some talent mapping, we've partnered with talent mapping organisations to say, we need a director of estates. We don't know who's out there who's a good director of estates, so help us a bit, but kept it in-house, using the research, but contacting people ourselves. And we've enhanced our mobility offering, dead easy things like setting up an Airbnb account. But if you're inviting a professor over from New Zealand and they don't know Manchester, having an Airbnb account so you can find them somewhere to stay, or if they accept the job, find them somewhere longer term to stay. It's just little things that enhance the process. And just a better all-round candidate experience. The little quote there from our recent head of health and safety who actually accepted the job, saying that this was a great and smooth hiring process. So the future for us is looking at the next part of the journey. We've got live chat functionality, so we're readily available, and that's quite handy if you've got candidates in different time zones in terms of being able to talk to you. A new careers site, looking at the user experience and the candidate experience, richer content, a much easier process. It doesn't fall down when it gets to the search and selection pages. There's a smooth candidate journey. Further leveraging our employer brand, using our people more, creating more employee-driven content so that we can actually talk about real people and real stories more, and making more use of social media in terms of wider channels. So to round up, in terms of takeaways, creating different experiences for different candidate audiences has been very key for us. And that might sound pretty obvious, but for a university, that's different. Because if you're used to putting out all your jobs on one job board, to actually say different candidates require different processes has been new news for us. So we've been doing a lot around creating different journeys. Segmenting our communications, giving out different content at different levels. Baristas want to know something different from professors. Being very human. There's been a lot of talk about AI and chatbots, but we've been very deliberate in keeping the human in our process, because resourcing in a university organisation wasn't well thought of and candidates didn't have a great experience. So actually keeping that human interaction and making things very, very personal for people has worked very well for us. And I think from what I would say as well, don't be afraid to try something different. It was a bit of a gamble to do what we did in terms of senior hires. I kind of put my neck on the line and said, we can do this better than Odgers. And then I thought, crikey, we're going to have to do something really different to actually make sure this works. But don't be afraid to do something work. And then think about the wraparound, your whole ecosystem, not just your recruitment marketing, but how your back-end processes and how your employee engagement, your onboarding and your entire experience map onto that. And it's not difficult to get tools in place, just sometimes requires a little bit of ingenuity or a little bit of help from external partners. And back again to my other point is, it doesn't have to cost the earth, because we didn't have a huge budget. And it was very clear that we were never going to get a huge budget to do things. But if you're going to spend $30,000 on a search and selection agency, to actually spend $2,000 is a big difference. So despite not having a big budget, we were actually able to do something quite interesting. So that's it from me.